Transurfers and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia, guys, and this is Xavier Waterkeyn. And another episode of Reality Transplaining. That kind of came out wrong. Reality Transplaining.
Let's say that again. Reality Transplaining. For those of you who need reality to be transplained.
Yes. Today's video, we are doing the Spiritual Capitalist Edition. Capitalism. And the three topics that I would like to discuss today, if we don't get whisked away on a tangent of other things we fancy talking about, which happens often, but if we could steer towards these topics, that would be great. Number one, the power in pissing people off. One of my favorite topics when it comes to making money.
Yes,
Two,
and something you do so well.
Two, why the Matrix loves you struggling and suffering. Ooh.
Yeah.
And number three, dun dun dun, caveman brain.
Okay. And cavewoman
You
brain.
probably don't. Yeah, you probably don't know what exactly I'm talking about, Xavier, simply because I don't think you watched the video yet. So
No.
That was something that I talked about in my video, Spiritual Capitalist.
And for those of us who haven't watched it and would like to, maybe you can just talk a little bit about it now so that we get an idea of the foretaste before we go for the main course.
Yes, well, that was an interesting video for me to film, Spiritual Capitalism. I had this strange feeling as I was making this video that I didn't quite understand. I mean, I tried to include all the talking points that I could think of that have helped me to become wealthy in my life so others could benefit from all the points of my story that I feel are pertinent and the things that I did and how transurfing helped me and all that kind of stuff. But like I got this sort of feeling that was unsettling as I was moving through that, God, are people going to actually value from this, or is this just too lengthy? Because the video is 2 hours long. I tell my story for quite a bit of time, and then I get into exactly what money is, why people are so triggered and affected negatively by money, a lot of the thoughts that are or a lot of the reasons that money is presented in a way where it's like bad and we absorb this stuff and then we're in this conflicted space of feeling as though we want it but we hate it at the same time. I mean,
well, it could be an hour length long video if people play it at double speed.
Yes, that's true. You can do that.
So
that's
people
very, very
forget that they have the option of just, I mean, you're perfectly understandable at double speed. So
yes, good idea. So watch it on double speed if it's too much of a time commitment. But yeah, I kind of got this feeling like, man, are people going to benefit from this? Is it too much? Is it too specific to my story to where maybe people won't relate? And finally, I arrived at this place after I filmed the video, and even somebody commented this after the video that they believe the video is actually for me. And I mean, I don't want to get into it in this video, but it has opened up an absolute can of worms in my reality. And I've received some higher insights and things that I'm going to move on in my life that I feel are going to help me to take it to the next level. So it's this interesting, as a lot of my materials are, they're really just, especially my courses, these are my methods, things that I've created, little systems that I use to help me.
I don't know why you worry about whether or not people are going to get it, because if you think of the law of resonance, the only people that are going to get something are people who are approximately close to the wavelength anyway. People who are totally not on the wavelength won't even see it. People who are partially there will see it and maybe turn off. People who are more there will persist, and the people that are totally with you will get it. So just speak your truth. I think that's what we all should be doing. We should all be just speaking our truth, and the people, let the audience come to you.
Yeah, I think this is a fascinating aspect of following things like reality transurfing, is that no matter how much we've studied the material or worked with it, I think we're all just, we have this innate drive to think, oh, are people going to like this? Oh, is my product going to sell? Oh, is this thing that I'm putting out into the world going to connect with people? There is always some little gnawing element of, is what I am doing valuable? But as you're stating here, with just bring yourself, just bring your story, and those that it's for, that's, there's your answer right there.
Just use the law, and just use the law of assumption. Assume that it is of value. Stop questioning it, because the minute you question it, you're creating the energy of questioning it.
And that energy sidetracks you.
Exactly. And it also, and the people who are questioning it will connect with the questioning, not with the actual delivery of the material. You see what I mean? This is how your energetic influence is going to determine who does or doesn't engage with you at any level. This is what the thing that no matter how often we study these processes, we need to constantly remind ourselves that we give out, we will get back what we give out, and what we give out comes from who we are. So we have to assume the position of being, I am an authority on this subject. I'm an authority on my own experience. This is the truth of my experience. Come to me, meet me halfway, or don't.
Yeah,
it's so simple. But
here it is.
In a society where we're constantly being asked to please other people or to second guess other people and what they might or might not want, in fact, this is the opposite of marketing. The transurfing attitude is actually the opposite of marketing. Marketing tries to find out what people think that they want and tries to give it to them.
Yeah.
Whereas these transurfing and the other reality creation modalities assume a stance.
Yes.
I am of value. What I have to say is of value. It has been of value to me. Maybe it'll be for you too. If it is, you'll come to me. If it isn't, you'll go away and you'll find what you need or what you think of you need somewhere else.
Yes, yes. And I think also too, and this is such a subtle nuance, but it's so powerful, is what you were just talking about with marketing being like, let's try to figure out what people want and then give it to them. This is the concept of frailing in the transurfing modality, but you can still attempt to frail someone in an inner intention sort of way and think that you know what people want, but maybe your data is wrong, or
I think what you're describing works better, if I understand what you're saying correctly, works better at a one-to-one level. If I am in the same room with you, or if I'm just talking to you like I'm talking to you right now, I am focused on the pendulum of your energy, whether I know that consciously or not. I can tailor my message to you. I don't even have to think about it consciously because I'm already tuning into your energy. Therefore, I will say the things that you need to hear. At least that's my intention. And that's my inner intention. When you're talking to our millions of fans, you can't fine-tune millions of fans simultaneously.
Yeah. Yes.
So what you do is you
bring what's internal to you.
Exactly. So your internal intention is blah, 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 whatever it is, they come or they don't come. With that in mind, what's the first subject of our conversation today? The power of?
The power of pissing people off.
Okay, fine. Talk about that. A subject upon which you are an expert. So talk about that.
God, I really am an expert at this subject. You know, as soon as someone flares up in my reality at me, like this attorney / politician, and, you know, I know the vibe that I gave off when he first saw me. I was sitting there all prim and proper in my little proper dress, and my hair was a natural color, and I didn't have any jewelry on. And he probably thought to himself, oh man, I'm going to eat this broad for lunch.
Soft touch.
I'm going to eat this broad for lunch. She has no idea what's coming her way. And then when he put the video up of me leaving the courthouse, and it got like 65,000 hits, and someone messaged me and they're like, oh my God, you got to see this. There's a video online of you that's got all these hits. And I go and I look at it. I'm just like, I'm laughing, and it's like super exhilarating. And then in my mind, I'm like, oh man, game on, dude. This is so funny. And, you know, I have developed over a lifetime of learning things in an unorthodox way, cutting my teeth with business in what I perceive to be one of the most savage businesses in the world, the diamond and jewelry business. I mean, this is a
That's right.
hard bunch of characters, yeah, that you know, you've got nationalities in there and generations of nationalities that you could spit on them and they'd think it's raining, you know. I mean, it's a hard group of folks. My joke is that the jewelry business is the second most savage business in the world, and the first one is, take a guess, Xavier.
Politics?
No, politics doesn't even come close.
Ooh, okay. It's the most savage. Oh, the music industry is reputedly horrible.
The world
No,
of
it's not that.
self-development.
No, self-development. Yes, you do like to do it hard, don't you? It's that masochist in you again. Give me the really steep mountains to climb. Don't give me any hills.
If people knew how these characters that are pitching all this love and light stuff are cutting each other behind the scenes, if people actually saw this, because I see a lot of this, you know, it would, like our one video that we did, spiritual.
That pressed a lot of that pressed a lot of buttons. Yes. You want to talk about pissing people off? That did it for a lot of people.
That was a good one. Yes.
So let's deep dive a little bit more into the power aspect of this. Okay, where do you think? Okay, let's establish a scenario. Doesn't matter what it is. You piss someone off, right? Where is the power in that for you?
So the power in that for me is realizing that I have just exited the matrix in some type of way. There is some standard or some guideline or some rule. Now, let me preface, pissing people off is different than hurting people, right?
Yes.
Hurting people, somebody getting pissed off because you hurt them.
You have a deliberate, if you have a deliberate intent to cause damage, is different from speaking whatever truth you have and people, as a result, choosing, and I emphasize this again, choosing, mostly subconsciously, but choosing to be upset.
Exactly.
This is a major thing that people have to get used to. And the amount of people who will not own this is just always staggers me.
Absolutely.
If I find myself that someone's pressed a button or upset me or annoyed me, whatever it is, and in more extreme cases actually really succeeded in pissing me off, I have to firstly I have to own that. I have to own that. And most people don't. So the idea that you when you do this to someone else, you're not doing it deliberately, you're simply being who you are, and somebody else is reacting. The power, I would argue, the first bit of power is that you have, I love this word, discombobulated them. You have thrown them off balance. You have thrown them off their center. Yes. You had agitated them. You have raised their importance level.
Yes.
You can tick all of these boxes of all the things that you've done to destabilize them in some way. And when you're working and when they're operating from a platform of instability, very little that they do is effective.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the first power. You have managed to disempower them. Rather, or more accurately, you have created circumstances in which they have chosen, mostly subconsciously, to disempower themselves. Yeah. And in their disempowerment, there is an advantage for you to own power.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Your lawyer, like your lawyer has actually now put this fellow has He's made his stand. You, Renee Garcia, are the American capitalist devil incarnate. You're trying to exploit these people, blah, 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 blah. Ooh. So you got all these views, etc. But he's coming from a very disempowered space because, as we mentioned in the last Transplaining, if you were to decide to go all in as your own lawyer wants to do, you could eviscerate him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's left himself open.
Oh, yeah. Left himself open big time. And I think also, too, and I know that I touched on this briefly in the last podcast, but there is an extreme amount of power and just inner, like, it just feels really, really good to know that I could absolutely destroy someone, like totally destroy someone, but I don't, because I'm not getting triggered the same way he is. So
well you're still in a position of choice because you're responding rather than reacting. Reaction is never a choice. If I put my hand on a hot plate by accident in the kitchen, I will react. My hand will move away. The nerve channel that goes from my hand to my spine and causes the reflex action of lifting my hand off doesn't even get to my brain. My brain doesn't realize it until after the fact. So it's a completely subconscious process. It's effective because it's a very simple act about a very, very simple set of circumstances. But reaction, reflex, is never a conscious process.
So let's break that down a little bit, because I think in there is exactly what it is we're talking about, of why pissing people off is a source of power. You are essentially doing something when you piss a person off in business. You have rub up against the matrix in some type of way. Now, like, we could use the example of you just quitting a job, right? You have a 9-to-5 or whatever type of job where you're working for somebody else's pendulum, you're making a wage, and you decide that that's no longer for you, and you are going to do your own thing. You're going to create your own business. You're going to forge it alone, and you go in and
you're going to forge your own path. You're going to you're going to blaze your own trail.
You're going to blaze your So when you go in to quit and you agitate someone, like your boss or PR or whoever gets agitated, the manager, you have probably done one of a number of different things, one being that you are retracting your energy from their pendulum, right? They need your energy.
And if they're personally involved, they might actually feel betrayed.
Yes. How dare you retract your energy from my pendulum? Two, you could be showing them by your action your power in being able to do something that maybe they really, really desire to do, but don't have the nuts to do, right? So you're showing them something. So withdrawing yourself from some system or some structure as it has been created, this attorney being a good example, I very seriously doubt there has, and I would love to meet her if it is the case. I would love to meet her. I'll buy that broad dinner any day of the week. But I would love to see if there was another, female American, doesn't speak very much Georgian at all, coming into a place like this and getting involved in the real estate business in the way that I have. I'm probably the first. So I am massively irritating to the structure as it's set up.
Remember that he doesn't know you. He only projects on you what you represent. You represent the American capitalist. You represent everything that I don't know this guy. I don't know what his worldview is. I don't know, but I'm projecting now. But because I have so little data to work with, but I'm assuming that his worldview and your worldview are incompatible. and or he perceives your world, that your worldview is incompatible with his.
Well, yes, I believe that there are elements of that for sure. He's trying, this is where it gets really fascinating. He's trying to pitch himself as an attorney for the people, for the Georgian people.
Yeah, but that's a big clue, isn't it? For the people. You got to be. I'm always suspicious about people who are for the people.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Because,
but he's made very, very outlandish lies about me to create this image of me. And then he's throwing this image out into the world and people are going, oh my God, there she is, kill her, charge, you know, and while everybody's screaming, charge, we're gonna get her, he's like, hey, don't forget to visit my my attorney's page on Facebook where I can be hired for my services.
Yes.
So he's
because I'll work. Yeah, yes. He's hijacked you as a marketing tool.
He's using me as a marketing tool. Exactly.
Which is perfectly legitimate from where he's coming from when you think about it.
Like I said, game on, dude. Let's go.
Yeah, but he's chosen to play the game he's chosen to play the game by those rules, and therefore, but he doesn't realize that you're not exactly Caspar Milquetoast, and that you're not exactly going to cave in if he pushes you. That probably not a good idea to rouse the capitalist tigress unless you know what you're actually dealing with. I guess though, because you know that you could damage him, that you wouldn't be inclined to invoke that damage unless he actually begins to damage you.
Yeah, I mean,
I would imagine that would be the case.
This is, you nailed it. When I first saw this video and I saw it going viral for Georgian standards, I thought to myself, I mean, I was wildly entertained, but then I'm like, dude, I could take your head off. And then I thought to myself, but wait a second, how is he actually hurting you? Like, let's say another version of reality played out where I looked at this and I was hurt and devastated. Oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this to me. And I went into victim mode, right? Rather than being entertained by my reality.
Which victim mode, which some people find power in as well.
Yeah,
but that's a sideline. But that's a sideline. But if he were to damage, you could damage him back. From a transurfing point of view, I'm curious. How is your framing around this? If you're framing a scenario of what would be an optimal outcome for you as a result of these interactions, what would you be framing?
Well, you know, the way that I'm looking at it is like this. The people of Georgia are incredibly poor, and the people that get themselves into these situations are very, very poor, losing their homes because they took bank loans that they've never paid. Now, in this particular set of circumstances, these people are actually not poor. They have another house on the same property, which is very entertaining.
I'd imagine it would be.
And they also have money. Now, they don't want that part of the story to be told. They want it to be pitched that they're going to be
they're the victims. They're the victims, yes.
Yeah, they're the victims. Absolutely. Now, when Georgians do this to other Georgians, when they come in and buy their properties at auction and start the process of removing the people, they don't offer them anything. They don't give them anything. Now, ever since the very first day, I made a very serious and substantial offer to help them. And over the course of 3 months, I offered them more and more and more and more. And that's why I won the court case, is because the judge was shaking her head and she was like, I can't believe you people. This lady is doing all this stuff for you and you're acting like this, like case closed, you're out of here. So now they've appealed. So we're going to go to appeal, and the lawyer has told me that they will appeal the appeal and they're going to take it to the Supreme Court of Georgia. And I'm actually super excited about it. Yes.
And here is another opportunity. Having studied some law myself, I want to tell you a little story. It's about it's a very, 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 very famous case in common law, and anybody who has a legal background will recognize this story. What happened was basically a fellow was trying to catch a ferry, I think in Sydney, or yeah, I think it was in Sydney. A fellow was trying to catch a ferry, didn't get on. I can't remember the actual details. Didn't have the money or paid later or something like that. Anyway, he was fined, and he questioned the fine because he said he did have the money or something. I can't remember the exact details. I'll have to look it up. If I'd known we were going to discuss this, I would have looked it up. But the court case ended up in the Supreme Court of the High Court of the UK, United Kingdom, which was the highest court of appeal at the time in Australia. Because Australia was still at the time subsumed to the Supreme Court in the UK. Anyway, this basically it was a penny or a farthing. It was a tiny amount of money that he had to pay for it was a relatively small amount he had to pay for the fine. But because he took it to court, because he took umbrage, it ended up costing a huge amount of money. Oh. So some people, and this is a friend of mine who works with people who are disabled because of car accidents mainly. He once told me that the classic psychological profile of someone who ends up in a wheelchair because of a driving accident is a 25-year-old male with poor impulse control.
Interesting.
And he has often in I'm getting to the point here. He's often is dealing with these people, and even the accident hasn't changed them fundamentally. They still have poor impulse control, and they still have trouble understanding reason. And he told me once something that has stuck with me through all these years. And he said, some people simply cannot be reasoned with.
Yes, it's so
right.
true.
And then, so what you're doing here is, this is again the power of pissing people off. Often the people most easily pissed off are people who cannot be reasoned with.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because it's part of the same personality psychology matrix. They are stubborn in their beliefs. They've made their stand. They're going to live or die by their stand, which is heroic in some circumstances and incredibly stupid in others.
Oh, my last message to them after I won the court case. This is my plan. My last message to them after I won the court case, I text the guy and this is the other funny part, is the one that actually owns the house is a dude like my age, and he's super hot.
Okay.
So here I am, like trying to talk to him, and he's not having it. He's like, man, who is this chick? Like, get her out of my face. So after I won the court case, I messaged him and I'm like, see, I told you that was going to happen. Now, this is going to be my last message. I'm going to offer you this much now. And people were crazy, thought I was totally nuts. My attorney thought I was nuts. Everybody that's close to me, they're like, why would you offer them money
when you've already won?
When you've already won. And I said, because if they appeal, I will be able to go into court and to say that I've offered them the money. And if they do accept it, I will pay it to get them out. Absolutely. But I will get to go into court and say, listen, even after I won, I offered them the money and they said no. And this is just absolutely neutralizing the pendulum. The thing is like, I know they're not going to take it because he told me, he's like, no matter what you offer me, I will not take it. And I'm like, man, you don't understand where this is going. So this is my plan. The day that it's time for them to actually be removed to the house, I'm going to show up.
You're not worried that they're actually going to watch this video, are you?
I don't care.
You don't care, right? Okay. Because either way, you've made an offer that you're prepared to live by. Yes.
Oh, I absolutely.
So again, we're in this position where you're prepared to do something. You're not playing a game. You're actually saying you're prepared to do this, and you will honor this if they accept. But if they don't and want to take it to the Supreme Court, well then, okay.
Let's go. So at the end of it, when it's time after the Supreme Court hearing, and when it's time for them to come out of the house, I'm going to show up to the property with a limo. I'm going to have an apartment on hand that I can pay rent for an entire year for them. And I'm going to show up with cash, US dollars. And when the attorney starts filming me, I'm going to walk up to the camera with the money and I'm going to say, here, take the offer. Because I mean, they're saying that I'm just doing this god awful horrible thing, but really the reality of it is, if a Georgian had bought the property, they wouldn't even go. The sad thing is if a Georgian would have bought the property, they wouldn't even be going through the courts. They would have just kicked the door in and pulled the family out, and that would have been the end of the story. So here I am allowing due process, continuing and willing,
obeying the law,
obeying the law,
ethically,
exactly.
being generous. Gee, Renee,
being
you're being a real bitch about this, aren't you? It's really the way you're telling it. I have no sympathy for the way that you're handling yourself here, because you're obviously a complete capitalist cow, and you're going to get everything that you deserve from the court case. Yeah. Okay. So this brings me to think the second power of pissing people off is that they then get triggered into a state of being.
Yes.
And from that state of being, they will no longer act rationally.
And let me add to that. This is actually one of my points that I love to pitch when I'm teaching people about doing deals and money, is when you can walk into a situation with lowered levels of importance and throw someone else off because they can't. Importance levels are acknowledged from human to human, and then they're exploited. So if you can go into an environment where you really don't give a rip about how things play out, like let's say you want to sell something to somebody and you go in there loaded with importance that you want to sell the thing, the person's going to acknowledge that, and they can start to use that for their own benefit. Oh, that person really wants to sell that thing, so I'm going to hammer them down on that price. So if you can go into an environment where you have something that you want to accomplish, but you can lower your levels to extreme levels where you even just run a negative slide and the whole thing doesn't work out anyway.
And you're okay with that.
And you're okay with that. You're in a position at that point where you can acknowledge the importance levels of the other person, and you can begin to use their importance for your benefit. So if the other person starts putting off signs that they really want the thing that you have to sell, then you're in a position where you can see that because you're not entirely consumed with your own importance levels. So
I remember, I remember once being in a position where I wanted to buy, there was something on sale and I wanted to buy it. And it was in a marketplace. So it was a very market stall. So it was a very informal transaction situation. And basically the woman said, oh, well, how much would you give me for it? And I said, I could make you an offer, but if I did, I would insult you because it was going to be a very low offer. And she said, well, what do you want? And I gave the very low offer and she was insulted. Yeah. I had preempted the fact that she was going to be insulted. And she said, what do you think? This is worth blah, 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 blah. I said, I told you I didn't want to do this because you were insulted. And then I walked away because I didn't want to deal with somebody who was going to be so irrational. You were offering something that's like, I want it, but I'm not wanting to pay. It's not worth as much to me as it is to you. I don't know whether she ever sold the damn thing, but it didn't matter. The point is, you discombobulate somebody, they're thrown off their center, they start reacting instead of responding, they're completely irrational. You can use all of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's one of the great powers. Yeah, that's the great power. Now, I want to twist this around a bit. How's this? Where is the power in being pissed off?
If you're a creative person and you have access to the alternative space in ways where you can channel that energy into better and higher ideas of how to circumvent a situation that isn't playing out to your exact specifications, i.e. you being pissed off for some reason. I guess what I would say for myself is the only thing that pissed me off about this situation with the property, the only thing that pissed me off was the amount of time that's going to lapse between my original investment and when I actually gain access to it. that by them appealing the court hearing and then saying that they're going to even take it to the Supreme Court, I'm like, oh man, that's going to be at least a year or two. But then what that does for me is, as soon as I feel myself triggered, as soon as I feel myself not liking the way that the thing's playing out, then I instantly do two things. I accept the situation and run the slide that the thing's not going to fully play out for X amount of time. Let's say in this scenario, it's 2 years, probably max, probably be more like a year, because I'm an American here. They green light everything. So
oh, really? That's interesting.
Oh my God. You go into a court system and you're an American, they're like, let's hear a story. Everybody stop what you're doing to listen to this America.
I wonder why that is. I wonder why that is.
Oh, they love Americans here. They love Americans.
So in other words, so even then, these people who are giving you so much grief are actually going against the cultural norm of assuming that Americans are nice until proven otherwise. And you've demonstrated through your actions and decisions that you are actually a nice person. You're trying to do this the right way, and they're just coming out really, really bad. So I'm just wondering, are you, they could potentially get another year's living out of in this property that is actually yours.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But you're prepared to wear that.
I'm prepared to wear that, and also having like advantage, the concept of advantage is huge. So in the country of Georgia, you only have to own a property for 2 years before you don't have to pay capital gains on it anymore. Yeah. So I'm like, cool, 2 years investment and I'm saving the capital gains. And I'm kind of making, and I know this sounds a little bit weird, and a lot of people would say, well, why would you do that? Because like that doesn't seem like it would benefit you at all. But I'm turning it into a little bit of a game. Somebody told me, oh, what you need to do is you need to get their utilities shut their utilities off. They'll leave real quick and it'll cause them problems and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I should get the utilities put into my name. So I got the utilities put into my name, and each month I pay their utilities.
In the end, though, is it possible that they lose and they won't pay up? Because if they lose, they're going to have to pay you like rent. They're going to have to pay your legal bills. Is there a provision? Strategically?
No. Well, they're not going to lose. They are going to lose. There's no way that they can win. There's absolutely no way they can win.
Is there anything, what I'm asking is there anything they can get away with?
They can get away with living there, but
won't they still have to pay you rent for all the time that it was your property and that they move out?
That was an option that was presented to me by my attorney to sue them for rent. And I was like, the cool thing about my position is I understand them very, very, very deeply. I come from a long line of trailers getting repoed.
Yeah, sure.
I know.
But these people aren't exactly trailer trash. They have the adjoining property.
They do have the adjoining property, but they are messed up in their ideas of money, and they've got lots of bad, all kinds of stuff. So I just kind of feel like maybe I'm a little bit of like a little bit of an angel to them, that okay, you can stay there for 2 years.
You're only a potential angel, because they're being given opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity to do the right thing, and they're not doing it. You can lead.
They're still benefiting. They're still living there, whereas a Georgian would have already ripped them out.
But
so
they're going to.
They don't know they're benefiting.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm not at the coalface, but if at least it were me in this situation, I would then sue for rent, because really this is unacceptable behavior. I've done everything possible, and okay, if you're going to be dicks about this, I'm at least going to get. But that's up to you. You still haven't quite answered my original question to my satisfaction. I'm going to ask it again. Where is the power in being pissed off? Look at it from their point of view.
So the power in being pissed off is that pissed off can drive you to action. Pissed
Yes.
off for me allows me a moment to say to myself, okay, where are my importance levels? And then bring that all down, like saying, okay, it's going to take 2 years. That's fine. And then also finding advantage in the situation, which is seemingly, really challenging when we're emotionally triggered. But if you can learn the distinction, if you can learn to navigate in that moment from two very distinct versions of reality. One, I hate how this is playing out. This sucks. I'm a victim. I'm angry. Two, okay, this is telling me something. Where do I need to lower my levels of importance and where is the advantage?
And it's
and
not only, yeah. And if you
can do that,
you can navigate that.
If you can learn to wake up in that moment of being pissed off and flip over to that other side, man, that's
I think, and I think that's the key.
Fun.
That's
Reality
the key.
Fun.
That is the actual key. Because yes, sure, if you're in that mode of being, you might be energized in order to perform some action, but your action is coming from a very unstable, decentered, agitated place. Generally, nothing good comes out of that. Yeah. I think the power is in the reflection. The opportunity is there. Oh, something has triggered me. I have chosen to be triggered by this. What is this telling me about myself? What is this telling me about my worldview? What is this telling me about my insecurities? What does this tell me about my shadow self? If you can go into that space, that's where the power is. So there is a gift in these situations, believe it or not, millions of fans. Oh God, I'm just going to slam the door there. There is a huge power in that.
A heart attack?
No. It's just that his mother has just walked through the door.
Oh God.
There is a huge power in being able to say, wow, here is an opportunity. There is a gift here. Where is the gift? Where is the gift? Who am I in this situation? Where it's that classic thing that I go on and on. Here is a lemon. How do I turn this into lemonade? Yeah. That's the power. That's the power. So there's power in any situation where somebody is triggering and someone is being triggered. There is a huge amount of power. There is a huge potential for both parties to grow.
I think they need also
to be able to recognize it.
Yeah. I mean, that's where it's at. It really is self-awareness and understanding what anger does to you in the moment, or being pissed off or feeling slighted or feeling victim. This attorney is a failed politician here in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Somebody told me that he's a laughing stock. And if you look at his YouTube account, he's got a bunch of videos where he's really angry and he's going to tell you how it is. And they've got no views. The only video that he's done, the only one that he's done that has gotten any views or any recognition is the one with me in it. And that is because it's me. It's not because of him. I'm the attraction.
In his mind, he's misinterpreting this as an opportunity for him to get ahead and to be seen as the champion of the people.
Yeah,
right?
Well,
and so again, it's this dropping levels of importance and acquiring a certain distance from the situation and saying to himself, why is this working? Is it because of me or is it because of her? In this case, what is really going on here? But if you're in a particular state, a disempowered state from being pissed off and triggered, you're not going to get those insights. And this is the thing this is so transurfing. You are not going to find the solution from a space that is antithetical to that solution. If you're putting out this energy of agitation and chaos and craziness and you're not going to find the peaceful, rational, logical, optimal solution, because the energy, you're going to be on the lower life track all the time. You're going to be in the ones and the twos. Yeah. You're not going to get to the 10 because you have to be light to float that high. Oh God, that's a good one.
Oh, totally. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you're going to attract weird stuff too. Like some of the comments on that video on Facebook, it was like people were saying, oh, the same thing's happening to me. Can you represent me? But I don't have any money. And
I wonder why.
What are you making for yourself?
Yeah, exactly. You're attracting people that are at your level. And this goes back to the thing that we started with. If you come in with a sense of authority, well, people will come to you who will respect that and who need that. If you're coming from a disempowered place, oh, I wonder whether or not anybody's going to care. I wonder whether I have anything of value. Then you're going to bring in the people that are going to think, oh, well, I too wonder about whether I have any value. And now we're just going to sit in our pool of questioning each other's values and not really getting anywhere. And just sort of, not a particularly productive place to be at. Have we done this subject to death? Can we move on to the next one? Or do you want to have any last things to say about the power?
I think quickly though, before we wrap this one up, I want you to tell your own story of pissing someone off and making money, because it's a good one. You know the story I'm talking about.
Which one? No, tell me, jog my memory. There are so many.
The book, the Where Has Bin Laden book.
Oh yeah, okay, fine. Okay, just quickly going through that again. All right. So anyway, just briefly to go back. So rewind back 23 years, 24, actually 25 years now, because 9/11, no, not that far. It was 22 because 9/11 had happened. Everybody was had an opinion about bin Laden and how awful he was, etc., etc. So my publisher had tried to make this idea work that she just had one day she was sitting down and having a drink, and all of a sudden the Where's Wally books, which are called Where's Waldo in the United States, had taken off, and she thought, okay, how can we twist this and make it funny? Because you can't copyright an idea, only its execution. So the idea was good of having a where's something. What would I do? And then it came to her like a shot of the blue. One of those inspirons from outer space hit her brain matter, and she said, "Oh, where's Bin Laden?" She tried to make it. Work with an illustrator. That didn't work because apparently he was a drunk or something. Anyway, that's the story I had. And she came to me and she said, I've got this idea, but you can't tell anybody this is. And I said, well, your secrets are safe with me as always. And she told me this idea, and I thought, wow, ka-ching. The dollars already were going in my head. Okay, fine. Now I've got to find the right illustrator. And I've told the story before. I'm going to repeat it now. I found the right illustrator. After a lot of creative toing and froing, we finally got the book out. And it was doing okay, but just sitting on the shelf, not really doing anything. And it wasn't until there's a major department store in Australia called Myer. And apparently the book was on the shelf when the CEO, the head of Myer altogether, looked at it on the shelf and suddenly took umbrage and thought, this is horrible. This is making fun of people's tragedy. This is it. I can't have this. Pull this off the shelves. Pull this off the shelves. I'm not having this in my store without even thinking about it fully. Australia is one of those countries which actually, even though we don't have it in, unlike the United States where it's in the Constitution, we don't really have it in law in Australia, the right to free speech, but in practicality, we're really big on it. The minute that happened, my publisher said, okay, I've got to do this. I'm going to fight this, and I'm actually going to advertise it. And the minute that happened, she told me about it, and I immediately got onto the phone with my illustrator, Daniel, and I said, we've got a bestseller on our hands, because the moment you try to ban something in a country of free speech, people are going to want to know why it's being banned.
And they've got to run out and see what it is real quick.
Yeah, they've got to see what it is. And it was the same story with Dan Brown and his book about the Priory of Sion. What was it called? I can't remember the name of the book. It's hugely famous. Anyway, Dan Brown publishes this book, and it does nothing. It just sits on the shelf. And then because of one obscure radio show where this priest, a Catholic priest, said, oh, there's this book about Jesus and this paranoid conspiracy theory that the Catholic Church is trying to suppress knowledge. It should be banned. It's horrible. Everybody wanted to buy it. Yeah. What's the name of the book? Why do I have a mental block? I'm sure that there are people.
God, I love these stories.
I'm sure there's people screaming down the YouTube channel, and I can't. And yeah, people are screaming down the YouTube. If the book's called blah blah blah, but for some reason I can't remember. Put it in the comments below. I'll probably remember it at the end of this podcast. Anyway, the point is, the Dan Bradwell ended up selling millions, and he made millions by selling the movie rights, etc. The movie had that American actor who's Everyman. I can't remember his name either. I don't know what's wrong with my memory today. Anyway, I think it's because I'm in a particular space. Anyway, the point is, Bin Laden, from that point on, where's Bin Laden, started selling like hotcakes because everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted it. And then it became a shock jocks tried to get in on it and try to say, well, this is terrible because shock jocks work that way. On a radio station, and the strategy that I worked out with Daniel, the illustrator, was simply, okay, when you're being interviewed, just say, we're just asking a question. They've been at it for a couple of years now, and with all the resources of the CIA and whatever that America has behind, we still haven't found Bin Laden. So what are you doing with all the millions of dollars that's being spent on looking for him? That's all we're asking. We're not making fun of the people who died. This isn't a send up of the Twin Towers collapsing or the Pentagon being blown up or that plane that went down in Pennsylvania. The whole aim of the book is the ridiculousness of the CIA having millions of dollars to spend to find this guy, and they can't do it.
Well, and getting back to the original starting point, jumping off point of this topic is, okay, so you agitated the Matrix. I agitated the Matrix, and the Matrix, then what the Matrix does is, because the Matrix is as much a living being as any pendulum, the Matrix then has an immune response. Yes. So it's like an immune reaction. The immune response can actually work out if you understand the process. Exactly. So what happened is that it was that's why we talk about inflaming a situation. It's just like a body being affected and getting an inflammation. Sometimes the response is overcompensating for the danger. So what I'm saying is, for example, we were acting with that book like an irritant in the Matrix. The Matrix then overreacted to something, and in overreacting to something brought attention to it. And all pendulums work on attention, right? That's 100%. The key thing. So we weren't getting attention, but the irritation that we caused, the Matrix, created a vortex of attention. And from that point, the book became a much larger pendulum because it had managed to capture attention. This is capitalist marketing 1-to-1. Spiritual capitalism. If you can employ the spiritual principle of irritation drawing attention to something, and then you can link that irritation to your soul frail. To your soul, to your soul frail. But also, if you can link that irritation to the game of making money, you got it made. Oh, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. If you think of everything that you've ever bought, anything that you've ever exchanged money for, it's in response, you're scratching an itch. There is an irritation that you're hoping that the object or service that you're buying will alleviate that itch. Yes. It's all based on, it's never occurred to me before this actual conversation, but that's actually what is happening. Once, years ago, and this is possibly something we can discuss more at length on your Spiritual Capitalist channel eventually, is that somebody once said to me, people, when they buy a product or service, are not buying the product or service themselves, they're buying love, which I thought was a very interesting point, because love is an itch that people often can't scratch, and they can't scratch it with a relationship. So they're trying to buy it through an object. Having this object will make me feel the love that I cannot get from a person or from another conscious being. Well, there's just the hole, and the person feels like they could try to put anything into the hole.
Exactly. So yeah, so we're getting back to this. The pissing off is actually another way of saying there is an itch, or there is a point of pain.
Yeah.
There is an irritation, a potential irritation, because there is the possibility of being vulnerable to being triggered.
Oh yeah. In some way, absolutely. That's
some way. And so
really
obviously the CEO,
point.
So the CEO walking through Maya was in a state of potentially being triggered by something that he didn't understand.
Yeah.
And he hadn't done the work. If he had done the work on himself, he would have looked at it and said, "Oh, that's." He would have said, "That's funny," or that. It's not my. It's not funny to me, but it's not for me to decide who or buys or doesn't buy. Let the market decide. By getting umbrage.
Or if he really wanted to screw you, if he really, really, really wanted to screw you, you know what the worst thing he could have done would be? The worst.
Completely ignore it. Completely ignore it.
Walk on by.
Yep. Every time. This is why being ignored for many people is worse than being hated. Because at least when you're hated, people care enough to hate you.
Yes. Oh God.
Exactly. People care enough. Whereas the worst thing that you can do to somebody, if you really, really don't think any of them, you just ignore them.
Well,
because
the other day,
ignoring, you're creating a vibe that there's nothing to hook onto here.
There's nothing
happening. There's nothing. Yeah, I ain't got nothing here for you, baby.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing. The other day, somebody came into my spiritual capitalist video, the live, and was trolling me in the comments about being blacklisted, and you're the only one blacklisted, and don't listen to her, and blah, blah, blah. And here I am thinking, dude, and I know who the troll is too. He's very, very angry at me because of what I'm doing with transurfing. He's just some little crappy kid. I'm actually wondering if he's going to watch this, but he's some little shitty kid and a teenager, late teens, early 20s. And I thought to myself, dude, did you have to like set an alarm to remind yourself to come and tune into this channel to troll me during my live? And you know how I got him out of there? He was going off, saying stuff in the comments. How I got him out of there was I said, hey, stay tuned to the end. There's a special message just for you. And there was. And you know what? As soon as I said that, he was gone. It was amazing. It was like you make a place for them and they'll disappear. which is
a paradoxical contradiction. But it works. That's another technique. You're using the energy against him. It's like, okay, yes. You want this? Here's an opportunity to take me on. Oh, suddenly you've disappeared. But you've got to do that with being fully prepared that if you are going to take them on, that you will take them on, because otherwise they might call your bluff. And if you got nothing, then you lose your power in that situation. All right, can we go on to the next subject?
Let's do that. And sorry if you guys can hear my housekeepers above me vacuuming. And
I can't hear it. I can't hear a thing.
Can't hear it?
I can't hear it. I can't hear a thing, so nobody else will be able to either.
Okay, sounds good. So topic number 2, why the Matrix loves you suffering and struggling. Wow. This could be like a podcast, a 2-hour podcast just on this. But just briefly, your thoughts. So I actually had this very interesting thought the other day. On my video, I referred to some kid coming onto my channel and saying to me, where's your Bugatti? Do you know what this means? Yes. Where's your Bugatti? You do? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know. I didn't know what it meant. I actually had to ask somebody. I asked the moderators what it meant. And they said, oh, it's this Andrew Tate thing. And essentially it's like, you're just like coming to somebody saying, well, I've got my Bugatti. Where's your Bugatti? Like, who the hell are you? Look at who I am. Well, and I think the other implication, if you're so smart, why ain't you rich enough to have a Bugatti? Why what have you got to show for all the talk? Yeah, exactly. Where's your Bugatti? But what happens when things like this become culture is that's then presented to the matrix adherence that this is the standard, that you are not smart if you do not have the Bugatti, right? So
yes, of
in
course.
my video, I said, you know, and I find it fascinating that someone comes to my channel presenting to me the matrix standards of the Bugatti, and you're nothing if you don't have it. Whereas here I am operating from an entirely different set of standards that I've created, but I probably feel more wealth than even the one that has the Bugatti. But even more valuable is that this person coming to my channel saying, "Where's your Bugatti?" is probably really, really struggling and suffering. Yet he's coming to me, presenting to me this standard that is keeping him suffering and struggling.
Yes, because the question is coming from, I have this standard that
yes.
I am meaningful if I have my Bugatti. So
I don't have it.
I don't have it, and you don't have it either. Who are you to tell me how to be in the world? Which is a perfectly legitimate question from that point of view. The problem is that point of view expresses a value system. And that point of view that you don't necessarily adhere to that value system.
Exactly. But the point of view for him is creating an environment where he doesn't have, and he's going to attack others that he perceives does not have. And it's in that wanton desire soup that he's eating that he isn't going to create anything, especially when he can't take information.
Sure. So the question here is, what does the matrix get out of him staying in that state?
Okay. Oh my God, dude, you set him up. You set him up and I just knock him out the park. That was like exactly what my point was. Okay. So what happens is the matrix gets us to adhere to these standards, convinces us of this system, and we adhere to it. And this becomes our sole focus. Now, what happens is this place, and even connecting it to our previous topic, the matrix and rubbing up against the matrix and getting agitated. So this desire, let's take the Bugatti, for example, Andrew Tate and the Bugatti, this desire, this sense of inadequacy for the person that isn't able to achieve this, all the stuff that encompasses, let's say, a young person, a young man, the guy that came to my channel, for example, all the stuff that is created in this system of this internal world of this young man, all these images, Andrew Tate, the matrix, all this stuff, it creates a very angry, desperate, wanting, and confused person.
Right.
So then enter in a concept like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a good example. So you've got this ambiguous, very, very powerful entity that enters the equation. It's innovative. It can make you crazy wealth. You can have the Bugatti overnight, you know, all this stuff. And it captivates this exact type of character that is angry, wanting, desiring, and confused. So then the more ambiguous the idea, let's say maybe the Bitcoin, the more ambiguous this is within the matrix to project out, it can capture a lot of adherents that have some type of cocktail of any of those things: desire, wanting, confused, angry, overly ambitious, whatever it is. It throws out like this massive, massive, massive net.
Yes. And then what happens?
With the end result being that the matrix extracts wealth from those adherents in monumental proportions, like history making levels of wealth extraction.
Well, okay, but you know what you've just described.
What?
Well, you've described two things. The first thing is you've just described the advertising industry.
Yeah.
Because the advertising industry deliberately creates agitation in people so they're discombobulated, and so that they start feeling this, it creates a value system of, if you're a proper person, you should desire this. And
yes, if you're
if
a
you
clean
don't
person,
have
you should
it,
buy these products.
yeah, exactly. So if you don't have this and you don't have this, so maybe you can't afford this, but we can give you this other thing that will be a substitute for that. And you can give the appearance of blah, blah, blah. So that's something. It's the first step on your way to actually having whatever it is that we're offering or whatever is missing in your life. You've also described the process through which cults work.
Good one.
Because it's the same thing. We take people. What does the Matrix get out of? What was the question? What does the Matrix get out of?
You suffering and struggle. No. Why the Matrix loves you suffering and struggling.
That's right. So the Matrix loves you suffering and struggling is because when you're struggling and suffering, you are in a particular state of being. And in that state of being, I can exploit you. I can exploit your desire.
Answers, products. Yes.
I can. Yes. That's an excellent point. I can withhold the secrets of the universe. I can withhold that. One of the people often accuse us of being cult peddlers in transurfing, yet there's nothing about transurfing that's culty unless you make it so. It's not like it's not like we set a system whereby you pay us a lot of money and at the end of it you get the secrets of the universe. We tell you from the very beginning what you need to do.
Take a space
the only time that we ever
another planet that we
so, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not telling you that like 50 bazillion years ago some crazy god decided to disempower people by invading them and there were aliens involved or whatever it is. Or whatever. We're not going to tell you that behind door number 3 is the secrets of the universe, but do you want door number 3 or do you want door number 1? And even so, you're still going to have to pay an entry fee into the theater before you can even see what's behind the doors or the curtains or whatever. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah, the very simple answer is, what does the Matrix get out of your suffering? Well, if you can exploit suffering, that's a goodie.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is about the cult thing is pretty interesting. I really do find it fascinating, and I've played into it a lot lately because I think it is fun. And the interesting part is people really enjoy me touching on that because it's edgy and you're not supposed to touch on it. And I actually did a story last night on Instagram and I was like, hey, everybody join our cult. And like the amount of responses that I got to it is wild. It really is. Like people find it entertaining. Here's the thing with transurfing in regards to that. We won't stick on it too long, but we do sell things here. I'm the first person to tell anyone though, it is better if you do it on your own. Absolutely better. It will mean more to you. It will provide you with something that simply cannot be bought anywhere for any amount of money. And what that thing is you knowing that you have the ability within, that you do not need to buy anything. The interesting thing about our matrix that we live in is that a lot of people are convinced that something only has value if it is sold to you or if it is something that you buy.
Yes. I know there's somebody in my life who operates entirely that way. You can give him the best advice in the world, but unless he's paid for it, he won't listen. That's the level that he's at. And I said, okay, fine, all right. If that's what I'm going to shut up now because I don't want to. Yeah, just whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it takes all types, and you know, some of my private students, which there's a very you have to do a lot to get time with me one-on-one, but those people that have bought it, now I've had a lot of stories that did not end up in success, people that wanted me to kind of create their own reality for them. But there are some people, especially as I raise my prices over time, there are some people that have paid absolutely full retail price and they have taken that value and used it towards their lives. So,
Right.
and that's because they valued what they were buying. They assigned value to it, and they made certain to continue maximizing what it was that they were given, so they could value from it, right? Because even if you buy something doesn't mean you're going to value from it. You have to continue to extract that value. So,
yes, exactly. It's like buying exercise equipment. If it sits in the corner gathering dust and is the world's most expensive towel rack, then you've really wasted your time and your money. You just got to get on it.
You got to get on the exercise bike.
Yeah, exactly. It's at some point you're just going to have to. It doesn't matter how much money you spent on it. Oh, I spent $2,000 on this really whiz bang exercise bike. Okay, yeah, but you'd never actually do any exercise. So all you've done is exchanged $10,000 for this very expensive towel rack. Is that working for you?
Yes.
So yes. So really. So that's a very short answer to a rather complicated question, which isn't so complicated at all when you think about it. What does the matrix get out of your suffering? Well, if you're suffering and the matrix thinks that you are going to exchange your energy and attention for something that the matrix is offering in exchange for that, the matrix will take your energy and attention, represented by money or any number of other things, and it will continue to do that and keep you. And it's not in the interest of the matrix to actually give you actually give you a solution. It's in the interest of the matrix. The last thing they want to do is lose a customer. It's like it's a bit like
take the product and be like, okay, I don't need anything ever again.
Okay, and this is very important in the self-development field. And I just want to take a little sidetrack into psychology here. There's huge value in psychology and in therapy and in psychiatric help if you need it, etc., etc. However, it is really important to have when you have, and this is something that I also establish in my contracts with people as a when I do one-on-one transurfing coaching. Very early on, I establish a goal. It's not therapy, but if I were a psychologist, I would call it a therapeutic goal. What do you want out of this? Whether it's like this particular session or what do you want out of a number of sessions where we need to actually define what a win is.
Yeah.
There are stories I've heard of people that are who can afford it, who've been in therapy for 50 years, but they've never had a therapeutic goal. So where's the end of the process? How do you know? How do you say, well, you will be cured of your emotional disturbance or your mental affliction or whatever it is, your existential problem, when you can do this, or when you can think this way or feel this way or act in this way, and you are functional, whereas before you were dysfunctional, now you are functional. When you can do that, then we've won. At that point, you can leave therapy.
I mean, man,
in some some therapy matrices, well, you know, you're doing 3 sessions a week at $300 an hour.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, and hey, what possible reason would I have as the therapist to cure you when you're part of the gravy train?
Paying $150 an hour for therapy. I, had these insights. I have a very peculiar relationship with therapy because I was one of those people that was in therapy for a long time, a lot of years. And I finally woke up right around the time that I found transurfing, actually, because even once I left Los Angeles, I was still calling into my therapist 2 times a week. And, I realized that this constant focus on trying to sift through all the trauma and pinpoint where, okay, so I'm crying today. It was because I got triggered, and then where can I trace that trigger back to what? And then let me go back even further, and okay, it was there. Okay, she said this mean thing to me and it hurt. And, doing all this type of behavior for years and years and years and years and years. And then finally I arrived to the place where I was like, oh my God, it's not in doing that, ruminating and waiting around in this trauma soup in someone's
so if it wasn't in the waiting in the trauma soup, well, where was the solution?
Acting acting towards the version of my higher self, doing things like talking about self-care on videos, or talking about cleaning my layer of reality. And
you stumbled on your own. Yeah,
managing
but that all that tells me is that you actually stumbled upon your own therapy. It happened.
I
You stumbled on something that worked for you.
What I didn't do is I didn't continue. Now, I did listen and read the literature lots and lots and lots of times, but I didn't take it and try to apply it to understand my past. I took it and applied it to the future that I wanted to see for myself. And as long as you're doing that suffering, woe is me, the trauma, the abuse, there's no way you're going to go.
In other words, you gave up on the personal archaeology, climbed out of the pit and decided, no, I'm going to lay a foundation for a completely new house, because digging among the ruins of my past is not going to get me the new house. It's not going to get me the new place to live, etc., etc. Having said that, it comes back to our original question: what does the matrix get out of your suffering? The matrix can get a lot out of your suffering, because if your suffering can be exploited, the matrix will find a way of exploiting it. And that's true of any pendulum. If a pendulum can find a way of maintaining your energy and your attention in order to feed itself so that it can continue to exist and grow, it will find it. Having said that, there are a lot of very positive pendulums and vortices in the world that give as much as they take and transform, and it's a mutual thing. If you think about it, the most wonderful pendulums out there are plants. We exhale carbon dioxide as a waste product. We poo and we pee as waste products. And yet, through the alchemy of botany, plants transform our waste products into things that we can feed us. Because the things we waste, they use. Things that we use, they waste. Their waste products are oxygen. Waste products are a fruit designed to feed you. Right? It's so if you ever doubt that there are good pendulums, look at a tree. A tree will grab your attention through its beauty and its flowers and its fruit. And it will practically invite you to give it your waste products and then transmute them through alchemy. And then transmute them through alchemy, and they give back something that they don't need. Don't need oxygen, it's a waste product to them, that we do. If you can find a way that everything in your life, every relationship with every vortex you have is like that, you're so on a winning streak, so unbelievably on a winning streak. So start looking at every matrix, every vortex, every pendulum in your life. See how that little pendulum is dangling something in front of you, and ask yourself, am I being hypnotized into giving up my life, the things that I value, for something worthless? Or does this little pendulum that is hypnotizing so much represent a couple of really luscious berries that are waiting to be picked? A couple of little cherries that will create a burst of flavor and sweetness in your mouth and will nourish you, and as a byproduct cause you to spit out the seeds, and those seeds will then get planted in the earth somewhere. Or if you swallow the seeds, even better, because animals that swallow seeds end up pooing in the forest. And so the seed is there waiting with its own little batch of fertilizer, ready to grow from it. It's a really clever deal. And it only took 4 billion years of evolution to work it out. But hey, at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation for everybody. So the converse of that question is what do good matrices get out of keeping you happy and content?
Yes. That's what I was just going to bring this back down to, is taking a look at what it is you're consuming. Okay. So when I say consuming, I mean literally what it is you're consuming, literally what it is you're buying. You know, the luxury brands business. I'm in the luxury brands business.
Sure.
Now, I'll give an analogy, my little example in a moment of how I use the luxury brands business to actually help me do what it is you're talking about, like eating a piece of juicy fruit off of a tree rather than getting caught up in another part of the matrix that is extracting something from me because I'm suffering. So I think
Yes.
where we arrive here is look at what it is you're consuming, content, actual consumption of food and products, what it is that you're buying, luxury goods, the house that you need, the car that you feel you need, all that kind of stuff. And ask yourself, is this thing, this pendulum, extracting resources from me, primarily financial, but they can also be a number of things.
Look, your time is valuable. Attention is valuable.
Everything. Exactly.
In fact, time is even more valuable than money because you only have a limited amount.
Yes.
No billionaire, as Steve Jobs found out, necessarily extend the amount of time that you have.
Yes, exactly. So looking at what it is you're buying, how you are paying for it, and if that thing that you're buying is somehow convincing you that it will alleviate something for you, some suffering internal to you, then switching over to the other mode, which is this pendulum giving me something in exchange for something within, or money or time or whatever, attention? And is that thing actually going to help me expand? So do you get the nuance here? Is it attempting to your suffering? Is it promising me that I will suffer less, or is it helping me to expand outward? Right.
And it's a really simple test, isn't it? Because all you have to do is ultimately ask yourself, is my interaction with this diminishing me or expanding me?
Exactly.
Now, you might have to do a lot of unpacking here because it might be a complicated situation, but that's the bottom line. Is my interaction with this thing, whatever it is, this matrix, this vortex, this pendulum, is this actually diminishing me, or am I expanded as a result?
I've got a really good analogy, and this may not resonate with some people, but some people it might. So let's take the luxury goods business. I know a lot of women that are very captivated by the luxury goods of the world, and they are attempting to fill a hole within them by shopping. So going to fancy
shopping
stores,
therapy.
Exactly. Yeah. Now let me preface this by saying there's nothing wrong with buying something nice for yourself. There's absolutely nothing wrong with buying something nice for yourself, unless you are trying to fill a hole that simply cannot be filled with something like luxury goods. I have a client, very wealthy gal from a family of billionaires. They own something crazy like Suzuki or Hyundai or something like that. And she is in a constant state of, and she won't buy hand. She won't buy wholesale for me. She won't buy. She actually sells to me, which is the interesting thing, at a fraction of the price of what she buys the things for. So she's buying at Louis Vuitton and Cartier and Chanel. She's on all their special VIP client lists. They let her know the first second that the new, Hermes bag comes out. And we're not talking cheap stuff here. We're talking handbags that cost $500,000.
$500,000 for a handbag? Because it's encrusted in diamonds or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
okay. So and she will sell that to you for like what, 50K or 5K or something like that, something ridiculously like.
I've never bought one of the bags. She keeps the bags for some reason, but the jewelry is in a constant state of and going out. Yeah. And she'll sell it for pennies on the dollar, because even though she's from a billionaire family, she has no money of her own, and she has a credit card. And once that credit card becomes maxed out, and this is a fascinating
capitalist
depiction.
discussion.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a case study. So even if I mean, God, a whole book could be written on this person. So she has all of her credit cards maxed out. She's in incredible, debilitating suffering, and doesn't like herself, and always, trying to just reach and grab for anything that's going to make her feel better, to the extent that she's like Freddy Krueger. I mean, she's just, going as hard as she can all the time. And if that credit card gets maxed out and she doesn't have anything, and that new bag comes out, she's desperate, and she will sell very nice things at cents on the dollar just to get money to buy that new thing, to get that bag. Exactly. So this is someone getting massive amounts of wealth extracted from them because of their suffering.
Sure.
Then you have someone like me. I never buy anything because I'm suffering. Ever. All of my purchases, and I've got lots of nice things. I wear lots of crazy jewelry and very expensive things, but these things are into an expansion of me, meaning I'm never buying anything retail price. I'm never shopping out of suffering. I'm shopping out of seeing value, knowing that I could, if I wanted to, sell it for more. And it's helping me to feel my version of wealthy. I never, ever put my jewelry on and think to myself, oh God, if I just had that one ring, all this stuff is great, but if I just had that one ring, or that stack of bangles from Chanel is missing, I've got to get those. It's never like that. I put this stuff on and I allow myself to feel really, really rich.
But isn't this the key to the moderately evolved soul? The unevolved soul seeks to find answers in things that will not give them the answers. They desperately seek love from things that cannot love them, or satisfaction from things that cannot give them satisfaction. It's like, and I feel very sorry for them, drug addicts. They're constantly looking for the thing that will make them good. And in the end of the day, all the drugs do are diminishing them. Might temporarily alleviate the pain, but the question is the temporary. They're not designed to provide a permanent existential cure for whatever angst you have. Whereas your attitude towards your jewelry is, this expresses my level of consciousness. For you, it's an expression. It's a representation. It's the mirror reflecting back to you a particular state of being. But you're not caught up in a trap of believing that you are your jewelry, or you are what you own, or you are what you have.
Or feeling as though what I have is never enough and I've got to get more because it's providing me with, or even think she thinks the stuff is providing her with a level of happiness. I think that she thinks that if she just gets that one more thing, then it will. Happiness is always something off in a distance. Oh, well, this didn't do it, then maybe that will.
I would argue that she has her own addiction. She is addicted to her unhappiness. Part of her, but this is something that would have to be discussed either between a transurfing coach or more likely a psychologist, because you'd want to really, but she won't change unless she's prepared to look at that. Having said that,
that's kind of it. I mean,
that's it. That's kind of it. That's it. What does the because like anything else, if it's a negative matrix, it will exploit your most negative traits in order to get to perpetuate its existence. And if it's a positive matrix, it will bring out the best in you in order to perpetuate its existence, because there are positive matrices out there. There are positive penduli.
Well,
There are positive
they've all got
vortices.
elements of both. All got elements of both.
Yeah, it's probably more academic that there is pure evil in matrices and pure good. For the most part, they're a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag. It's what your relationship.
But what are you leaning more towards? Are you leaning more than not the 80% good, 20% bad, or are you leaning more towards the 80% bad, 20% good? See, this is where you've got to call. Yeah, where are you in relation to this, and what are you going to do about it if you're not happy?
Exactly. That's what it boils down to, is, are you approaching everything that you are doing from the place of you're trying to fill a void or ease some suffering, and therefore your relationship to virtually everything is connected in a way where you are being extracted from, or are you taking control, and whatever it is that you're consuming or buying or using, that you're actually using it to feel as an expanded version of yourself.
And ultimately, does the relationship enhance you or diminish you? And you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to. We can't do that work for you. You've got to do the work. Yeah. What's the last topic of discussion today?
Man brain.
Well, this so links in to everything else we've already been discussing. So what is the cave? What is? Sorry, I object to the term caveman. I would prefer cave person. Yes. Right? Cave person, because we don't want to exclude women. Cave person thinking. So, or the non-gender, non-binary people who might object to it. I can just imagine, though, being in the Stone Age, having a conversation about whether you're a man or a woman. But that's a completely different topic of conversation I don't want to enter into right now. Okay, so what is cave person thinking?
Person thinking, I talked about this on my video, spiritual capitalists versus poverty psychology. And essentially what the idea is that the hunter-gatherer part of we are as a modern day human still resides within us.
Absolutely.
That it's that instinctual drive to not only try to get, but also to look at what you have as not enough. Because if human beings had not been able to adopt this perception, we wouldn't have survived. Evolution wouldn't have happened. We had to be in a constant state of feeling as though what we had was not enough, because that is what drove us to then try to get enough. The warm cave, the fire started, the berries, the bear.
I think it goes even deeper than the cave. I think it goes back to what neurologists call the reptilian brain. The reptile has modes. It doesn't have emotions in the same way that mammals do. So there's the reptilian brain says, okay, I'm hungry, I need to eat. I'm scared, I need to run away. That's it. The moment that those things are resolved, that's it. And it's a very successful survival strategy within a material world. Then you get the mammalian complexity. We survive by evolving things like parental feelings, looking after our young. Never heard of a snake breastfeeding its little snakelings. It just doesn't happen. So the mammals then invented nurturing as a survival trait, and it seems to have worked quite well. But people forget that for millions of years the dinosaurs were ruling because the circumstances allowed them to keep their positions of power. But once that asteroid hit and somebody basically wiped the chessboard, those little pawns that had been hiding under their toes for so long in little caves came out and evolved into eventually human beings. And so then you get the caveman, woman, person, cave person. Cave person then says, okay, I'm hungry, I'm cold, but I have a family and I have relationships, and I also have evolved language so I can talk about things and I can pass these things on to other people, and we create culture, things like that, which a lot of animals don't have, et cetera, et cetera. So what point do you want to make about cave person thinking or cave person feeling or cave person actions.
Wait, I want to just show you my dog real quick. Can I show you my dog?
Okay. Yes, this mammal of the week.
Oh, do you want to see both the dogs?
Sure.
Wait a second.
The sausages. These are the sausages.
This one's Baba.
Oh,
This is my.
nice.
Isn't he cute?
Yes.
I love this dog.
His head is just.
He's 7 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And this one, he's 17 pounds. This one's 17 pounds. Then check out this one.
That's about 8 kilos.
Oh, yeah, this one's 35 pound wiener dog.
Ooh,
It's a giant
ooh.
wiener dog.
Wow. Okay.
One's Ruby. She's 1 year old, 1.5 years old. Hi, little Ruby Lynn. She's
30
obsessed with me.
35 pounds is about 15 kilos. Or
Yeah.
16 kilos. 16 kilos.
Big girl.
Girl.
Huge.
Substantial.
Oh, you just bit mama? Okay, come on, you guys. I'm just going to pause it for 1 second.
We're not going to go on for much longer because
Okay, we're back.
yeah, we've been at it for 2 hours.
Pendulum. Oh, 2 hours already. Okay, yeah. So let's wrap this one up. Let's give some points to some takeaway points. So really, it's all about acknowledging when you are doing caveman brain, cave person brain, and acknowledging that that is embedded into your DNA to the extent that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing, when you're focused on what you don't have, it's not because you haven't learned transurfing or you haven't learned something. Like, you're going to revert back to that place at times, and just acknowledging to yourself when you get there, because it's in caveman brain that exactly what we were just talking about. You either get angered and triggered by someone and the matrix, or you get your resources extracted from you via the matrix because you are giving into caveman brain and focusing on a bunch of stuff that keeps you very, very vulnerable.
One way of thinking of it is to use an analogy of technology. The old-fashioned telephones performed a great function, communication across distances. It changed civilization. You can't compare a desk telephone from the 1970s to a modern smartphone. They're just completely different beasts. So cave person thinking is completely valid and useful in certain circumstances. We're not living in caves anymore for the most part. We're living in complex civilizations, more complex than most individuals can understand or get their head around, more complex than they can get their hearts around, etc. Which is why, more than ever, people have to really cultivate that connection with their higher selves, because the higher self knows ways of negotiating all this that our lower selves just don't. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with the lower self. There's nothing wrong with cave person thinking, but there's a time and a place for everything. It just doesn't work. You can't ask.
It only gets you so far.
Yeah, it could only take you so far. What happens though is that when under stress, we tend to revert to those more primitive levels of thinking, which is fine, but it won't be enough to get you through what you need. In fact, I would argue then that transurfing is an appeal to use your higher functions as much as possible and to cultivate those, to exercise those higher functions, the function of the imagination, the function of elevation, the function of awareness, the function of wisdom.
Russell of the morning stars.
Yeah. The rustle of the morning stars, the function of sensitivity to environment. The cave person was exquisitely attuned to their environment. Why not use that power to be exquisitely attuned to your environment, but with the higher function thinking and feeling, to recognize that the environment is a reflection of you.
Yes.
Is not the sort of
conscious awareness to do that.
Well, exactly. The cave person would have approached it differently. The cave person possibly would have considered themselves to be part of their environment, intimately linked with it. Everything had a spiritual aspect. Everything had a meaning. Everything they interacted in a very intimate way with their world. We need to act in. So again, we're coming with the paradoxes that not all cave person thinking is bad. Use that sensitivity.
I think that what I'm arriving to here is that how long did it take cave people to evolve? How long was it?
The current thinking in paleoanthropology, which is the study that this looks into, is that anatomically modern humans with anatomically modern brains evolved around 250 to 300,000 years ago. For most of that time, up until the last 10,000 years, we were hunter-gathering and living with our environment under those terms. And in fact, many tribal cultures today still largely live that way. Then about 12,000 years ago, the current version of reality is, or the current explanation of reality is, that there was the agricultural revolution and we changed the way that we lived. So that answers your question. I don't necessarily agree with that, what I've just said, but that's the current consensus, general standard consensus of human evolution.
Okay, so if we take that consensus, right or wrong, let's say there's some sort of,
a quarter of a million years being cave people, 10,000 years being farmers, and maybe the last couple of hundred years being technologically oriented people. It's the world we live in is very new. Very, very new.
So we're kind of like pioneers in a sense that.
Oh, very much so. Excellent insight.
Yeah, we're pioneers, and if cave people were able to become in tune with their environment to the extent that they could see success, which is right here, right? This is success.
Here and now.
Here, we're the product of them doing caveman right.
Yes,
we're the product
absolutely,
of
absolutely.
Right?
We are the children of survivors.
We are the children of survivors. So it's now up to us to understand all of this and how it's played out, and understand how we now can become in tune with our environment in new and higher ways that have nothing to do with the circumstances that the cave people had to navigate. We have new circumstances, and we need to get ourselves down the road towards a higher and better product. But it's not going to be achieved with the same methods that the cave person used, because the environment is different and everything is essentially changed.
And this is a core tenet of all of the reality modalities, that you cannot manifest or materialize the answer with the same consciousness and energy that created the question.
Exactly.
You cannot solve the problems of the problems of the modern world entirely using just cave person thinking. Cave person thinking is a part of it. It will never leave us. It's part of the legacy. It's part of our toolbox. But at the same time, we are constantly developing new tools through which we blaze our new trails, which in turn demand the creation of new tools. We're involved in a reality arms race, if you think about it like that.
You want to hear a killer example?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, check this out. AI, right? So AI, you got the people like me and you that are like, bring it. This is one of the new tools. This is how we
bring it on. Bring it on. Let's learn to negotiate it.
Yep, bring it on. Yeah. So that's us doing new human. But then there's other humans that are operating from caveman brain still. And they're like, oh no, that's scary, bad, unknown, scary. It's going to kill us,
And that might have been, and that consciousness served our ancestors very well. It's just not going to serve us very well.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. So it's like new environment, new rules, and separating from cave self to higher self to transcend the matrix.
The AI meteor has already hit the Earth. The AI meteor is already creating the tsunamis and the earthquakes that are shaking the world. Some of the dinosaurs are living on the other side of the planet, have not yet realized that their days are numbered. Some of us have already looked at it and said, oh, that was a big blast. We now need to look at how we're going to survive in this world because the genie is out of the bottle. The thing is that every day there's a new genie that comes out of another bottle. What's your attitude?
Yeah.
What's your attitude going to be? Are you going to hide in the dark? Sure, play it safe, but play it safe with some sense of curiosity. And from a transurfing point of view, you're being confronted. Your buttons are being pressed. You're being triggered. AI might even piss you off.
Yeah.
It might be providing an irritation that you are reacting to because this is non-self. So your spiritual and immune response is kicking in and saying, oh, incompatible, does not compute. And so you are reacting.
The Matrix has us convinced that it's a bad thing. And certain people are just buying into it.
Yeah, some matrices are saying this is a bad thing, buy into it because it suits them to have us think it's a bad thing. Other matrices are revolving that are saying, actually, this is not such a bad thing, give it a shot. So there are competing matrices, competing vortexes, competing pendulums out there. Reality is up for grabs, people. Which reality do you want to grab?
I've got a funny question.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is going to be hilarious. How many people, if you were to give a percentage, how many people on this planet do you think have negative views on AI and ChatGPT? Negative views, scared, doesn't want to have anything to do with it because they saw the movie Terminator when they were in their formative years?
Well, not everybody's seen Terminator. I know lots of people who have no knowledge of this sort of stuff. So the question is more, I'm sure that of that group of people, it's something that they consider. You can't escape the consideration that something like that might happen. It is one of the possibilities within the alternative space.
People that haven't seen the Terminator, I find that very, very hard to believe.
I know all sorts of people from all walks of life, Renee. You would be amazed at how many people I know who have not seen it. It's just not in their brain space. You're revealing your
movie of the 90s.
You are revealing your own cultural prejudices, Renee. We're talking about there are 8,000 million people on this planet. If the 8,000 million, if the numbers are accurate. So there are 8,000 million different ways of looking at the world that currently exist from a human perspective, right? So probably a more precise question is, out of those 8,000, if that 8,000 million people represent 100% of the population, what percentage look upon or would look upon AI as being something dangerous? I'm going to give you a ridiculous answer. I'm going for the 80-20 rule. 80% of people are going to think this is bad. I would say 80% of the 20% left behind would think neutrally, watch this space. That leads us to 96% of the population. Probably 4% of the population, that's 4 in every 100 people, would be looking at this and thinking, there's something in this that I might take to my advantage. And if you look at the way that the population in general is divided, I think those are pretty safe figures. I think no matter what happens in life, whether it's AI or anything new, the vast majority of people will approach anything new as unknown, unknowable, which is a big part of the population who just give up. They don't even understand. They won't even attempt to understand it. They'll just give up and think, this is too deep for me. This is over my head. I don't even know where to start. And even the people that are aware, I mean, if you think you understand AI and its full implications, I think you're deluding yourself. But I think you can come up with an attitude, with the lemons lemonade attitude again. Is there something we can use here? Is there a gift? how do I make,
Can I expand out of this?
Sure. How can I expand through this? Is this life enhancing? It will depend on how you relate to that thing. But if transurfing teaches us anything, if this set of tools and thought processes that we go through when we approach anything, if when Neville Goddardians will go through a similar process, if we're looking at Abraham Hicksy type stuff, all of that, those other modalities or ways of looking at things, they're all asking pretty much the same question. The challenge is, whatever you're presented with is the mirror world. Do you like what you see in the mirror? If you don't, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, that's it.
But at least we consider that there is a gift here. We just have to be smart enough to work it out. And that's actually really the positive side of caveman thinking. Because if you're starving to death in the cave because the bison or the mammoths have left, and you suddenly look and you're living by the seashore, suddenly all of a sudden you're looking at an oyster and you're thinking, maybe I can eat that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to think that the first person who ever ate an oyster or a sea cucumber or some of the other weird stuff that we've eaten over they would have had to be very experimental and avant-garde.
Yeah, and then they realized they had a new food source, so they hit it.
Exactly. And there are documented cases in anthropology where populations have starved to death because there were food sources that they simply did not exploit because of cultural reasons. They thought it was forbidden, or they decided it was forbidden, or somebody decided, some authority at some point once got sick from an oyster and said, you can't eat those ever. Or they were your totem animal and you can't eat that, and they starved to death and they died. That's the thing about physical reality. It basically forces you to confront things because there are realities in physical reality that don't care about your ideology, that they don't care about your theory. The whole point of transurfing is
matrix or be consumed by it.
Exactly. Not all, there is evidence to support all theories, including the theory that you will not survive if you do something. Yes, that theory works. If you have a theory that you will not survive if you do something or interact with something, then you will die. And then you'll have the satisfaction of being dead and knowing that your theory was right. And then there are other theories that say, perhaps if we explore this a little bit, we'll find a higher life path and we'll find a higher way of expressing ourselves in the world. We'll have an elevated consciousness through doing this. And funnily enough, there's plenty of evidence to support those theories too.
I love it. This was a killer podcast.
Yes,
I think this is probably one of my favorite ones.
Well, all I hope is that people play it at double speed so that they can get the bits that they like. Or they can play it in the background until something comes up to them and says, oh, that's interesting. I'll pay more attention to that.
Yeah.
I always find these conversations fascinating because I think about things that I'd never thought about before. There are at least 3 separate things in this conversation that I'd never thought of in that particular way before. But this is what happens when you up your own ante. We're putting ourselves in a position of explaining stuff, and we have to explain it to ourselves before we can explain it to other people. And if questions come up, we've better come up with pretty good answers, or we're not going to continue having these conversations and people aren't going to listen to them. So I think we're on the right track if we're, like I said last time, it's not a good episode of Transplaining unless at least one of us has had one epiphany.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Wow, this was a really good one. I really appreciate this conversation, and hope you guys all.
Yes, millions of fans. Hope that you got something out of this.
And remember, Xavier is available for one-on-one coaching. I am not, but I do have courses for sale.
Yes, exactly. Throw in the plug. Throw in the plug. Why not? What the hell? Okay.
If you're suffering because you feel inadequate, that you have not completely understood the transurfing modality yet, I can fix that for you. But it's better to do it on your own.
Yes, exactly. You can either buy a Bugatti from Renee, or you can find out how to build your own Bugatti with me. Or you can work out how you can build your own Bugatti through all of the free stuff that we've been throwing out over the years. So it's all there.
Oh, yes. Playlist, tons and tons and tons of playlists on this channel, everybody. So check them all out because there's a playlist for virtually everything on this channel now. So with that, I will bid you all adieu. And thank you so much, Xavier Waterkeyn, for your time and your energy, kind sir. I appreciate your...
I appreciate your energetic contribution to this conversation, Renee.
Thank you so much. I'm just happy to be here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much and have a good one and catch you all on the next round. Bye, guys.